So my question is, what the fuck is a biological daughter? And the reason I ask this question is because I'm quite a big fan of history, politics, as you know, whatever. And I was watching a program about, I think it was about the moon landings, and I was trying to remember who was. I know that Kennedy started the moon landing process, but I couldn't remember who was in power when it happened. And I said Reagan. I thought, no, that's far too early and whatever. So I started thinking about Ronald Reagan. And as I think I told you before, when I was younger in the 80s, you know, like all students, I thought he was a dreadful man, you know, like everybody thinks about Trump now and that. But history looks very kindly on Reagan now and sees him as quite one of the most successful presidents of probably the 20th century in terms of the things he did. So I looked at...
He beat Soviet Union.
Yeah, he did.
Without going to war.
Yeah. I mean, he ended the Cold War. He did phenomenal things, and allied with Thatcher, who I also hated as a young person, you know, they did some incredible things together. And so I looked up Reagan on Wikipedia. I was reading through his history again and all that sort of stuff. And you know, he had a very interesting life actually. And there's a podcast called The Rest is History, where I think they have 3 episodes on Reagan. It's really, he had a very, very interesting life and was an interesting character, complex, but you know, interesting character, not a racist. You know, worked tirelessly did some not great things, but also did some fantastic things as well. But I was reading his biography and reading about, he was married to Jane Wyman first, who was a very famous Hollywood actress you may not know, but then he married Nancy, I can't remember what her first name was, Nancy Reagan. And I was reading his biography and the personal life, and then on one of the sentences that, and this enraged me, it said, he married Nancy Reagan and had 2 biological daughters. So I was actually struck dumb, not that I was saying anything at the time, but for a moment, because I thought, this is fine, you know, we have finally reached the point of insanity, haven't we? Somebody now doesn't have 2 daughters or 3 sons, they have 2 biological daughters. And the only reason that has been inserted into that Wikipedia page, and I'm guessing now is across all Wikipedia pages, is to pacify or mollify the trans activists or the trans lobby. And you know, the question for me is, what, you know, for you is, what is a biological daughter, and where have we come to now that this is part of a mainstream description of somebody, of such an iconic character as Reagan. Even Reagan, where none of this nonsense existed before, is now tainted with this insanity.
First question, did it name any of the children he had?
No.
He only had 2 daughters?
I think he just had 2 daughters.
Because if you'd have said to me before, you just mentioned all that to me, what's a biological daughter? I would have said a biological daughter is to differentiate having daughters who you may have adopted, who may be stepdaughters because they were your wife's children, and I would have said it was used in that context, which is fair enough. If the trans movement now are adding this into biographies, so you know, to separate, this was their biological daughter who was obviously born a girl and stayed a girl, and that was their preferred gender, and they fitted comfortably with that gender, and they stayed that gender, as opposed to their daughter who may have been a biological boy who then decided he was in the wrong gender. So I'd want to see if they're doing it to other people.
Yes.
To see if this is a new thing, or is that just a one-off? Was it to separate him? Or was that because he's got a child with his first wife?
I don't think he had any children with his first wife.
I don't know.
I'll have to go back again.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if this is the new thing. Trans, I mean, Wikipedia's very woke anyway, so it wouldn't surprise me at all that they're now putting that word, just like they put the word cis woman, cis.
That's another thing that's infuriating. Yeah.
I had my last year, 2 years ago, my wife came home from work and says, "What's a cis woman?" I said, what do you mean? She went, someone at work just called me a cis woman. And I didn't know if it was an insult or not, so I've come up to ask you. So I explained it to her and she went, I'm not a cis woman, I'm a woman.
Yeah.
So maybe they're adding biological now to differentiate. That wouldn't surprise me, because how dare you say that Pete is not my daughter?
Yeah.
So he's my daughter, so maybe we need to differentiate. So sure. But then would you call him, the what wouldn't call him, or maybe they just say he had a daughter called Jim. Who knows what these lunatics do with our language?
To be fair to the article, what I'll do is I'll do some more research and see if I'm seeing that in other places as well.
If you are, then they're definitely doing it.
Yeah. But I think that was my first impression when I saw it.
Yeah.
That this is to say they were born as women and not men. But I could be wrong.
But don't forget, we can all see things sometimes where things aren't there.
Yes.
Because
I'm now doubting myself, so I'm going to have to go back.
Because we're looking for them. It's a little bit like if there's a death in the family, all the newspapers and all the TV shows, there's a death in the family.
Yeah.
Or you just smashed your car, and then next thing you know, everything you've got a car smash, and you start seeing things everywhere, but where you wouldn't have noticed that much before, because so you may have done that, I don't know. But be interesting for next time. Find that out for next time.
I will find out for next time.
If you like that video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell and comment. And if you like what I'm saying about running for Mayor of Greater Manchester, then stick around. Tell your family, tell your friends. The only way I'm going to have a chance of winning is a grassroots movement. So be part of that movement and hit that bell. Thanks.